Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call the August 20th, 2024 meeting of the White Bear Lake Conservation District Board to order. First item on the agenda is quorum, and we have that. Thank you, everybody. And we're called to order. And the next item is the approval of tonight's agenda. And does anybody have any adjustments that they would like to make to tonight's agenda? Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. The next item is the approval of the June 18th, 2024 board meeting minutes. And there are no meeting minutes for July because we didn't hold a meeting in July due to a lack of quorum. So are there any adjustments that anyone would like to make to the June 18th meeting minutes? Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. Public comments at our meetings, we reserve 15 minutes for the public to come in and discuss items that are not on the board's agenda. And seeing no one here, I will assume that no one wants to take advantage of that, and we'll move on. New business. So we have a new board member from Birchwood, Sherry Salzman-Hankins.
Correct.
Nice. And then also Susie Mahoney was reappointed by Birchwood. And Sherry, would you mind just telling us whatever you'd like to tell us about you?
Sherry, I've lived in Birchwood for about 7 years now. I have a 9-year-old son, do a lot of biking around the lake and a lot of reading, and we just adopted a quirky puppy. So.
Nice. Well, thank you for being on the board. Thank you for taking the time to help with the board. Okay. Unfinished business. Commercial Bay Marina slip counts. Chris?
Yep. So I went out there, what was it, about 6 weeks ago now? Or right before our last meeting that got, and all the slip counts, they came right in. In fact, I think Toxa White Bear was short a couple based on what we saw and what was documented. Tallies was good. They had some open slips in different spots compared to their diagram that we have, so we'll get some of that cleaned up, but the numbers they looked good. City White Bear looked good, and then VFW was on point. And then I also measured all the docks, and I was very surprised they're right there in the middle of the riprap, right? I didn't have a plumb bob and a laser, but I think Jason from Boatworks, who puts all those docks in, I think it's Jason Brown, right, Mike? I think he did a really good job from what I can tell. So that was another positive thing. And then the only other thing was Docks of White Bear, their farthest dock towards Admiral D's itself. On their diagram, it had this kind of little jag that shot it to that would be the south almost. And that didn't work out, so they brought it in. So it brought it even further away from that ADOA line, I think. So things looked good from everything that I saw when I went out there.
Okay, well, thanks for doing that. Any questions for Chris on that? Okay, thank you, Chris. Ramsey County Water Patrol Marina slip count. Alan?
Yeah, members of the board, I think the first count went fine. I thought that Mike had sent that in to us.
And sorry, Alan, can I just add that there is a report from the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office in your board packets.
Yep, and that's their first of 2 counts. And I think when I talked to Mike, it was consistent with what I saw and the drone pictures that we took as well, and consistent with what Chris found. So, knock on wood, it's a pretty amazing summer compared to, so we say, summers past. So I would guess that the next count will probably be towards the end of this month, and that would be the end of that. But it's cooked into the contract, but I think by the time we get to the end of August, it's almost not even, what are you going to discover, right? Unless we had a compliance issue like we did last year and it really becomes relevant to the discussion. I think we got through the summer pretty well. So, yay, high water.
And Alan, can I just ask a question about this report? So I see the photos. I don't see any actual count numbers, but is that, am I missing that?
That's the report. If you want me to get that data from the deputy, that's what I'd have to do. So,
Okay. Okay.
If you wanted me to take a shot at just read, like, because I did his drone pictures. If you wanted me to go through the police ones, I can do that too. But I mean,
Yeah, I think
I
if
think
we're,
the problem, like, I even had to like count the city a couple times because I was like, where's this extra boat? And the extra boat was Jason Brown's like boom boat, which they don't count. You know, the one that they use to move everything around. So it was like, unless the sheriff has really understanding of all the different things in there, he's gonna have some of these same problems.
Right.
But, I mean, either way,
well, I think we're probably more familiar with the details.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
right.
Okay.
And the other problem, of course, is this is being done by, you know, when you get a drone shot from me, I recognize some of that, but they have to actually bring in a licensed drone pilot because, of course, they've got that officer within Ramsey County. And so that person's not necessarily even someone who's assigned to any sort of water patrol. So it's literally, would you please go out and shoot the marina at White Bear? Thanks. So,
All right. Okay, any questions for Alan on the Ramsey County Water Patrol Marina slip count? Okay, moving on. VFW EAW draft application. Okay, so you all have a copy of the VFW's EAW, the Environmental Assessment Worksheet, in your packets. And what we've discovered after this packet was put together is that some of the figures, and particularly Exhibit 3, had some inaccuracies in it. And so Chris worked with the VFW to kind of straighten that out. And the updated Exhibit E was at your area. It's the one that has the blue cover on it. And so this updated Exhibit 3 has the correct property line shown and this kind of information. So it's more accurate. We've also confirmed with the VFW that this is accurate information. So I think we're at a point where the EAW is in pretty good shape. And Alan, can you help us just a second? I think what the next step is to accept this document, like to make a motion to accept it, the EAW?
yeah. And then you receive it, and then we can push it along, you know, because technically what you're doing is you're adopting it. They're doing the work, but it's really your document, right? It's your government submission to the DNR saying, this is what we got for you.
Right.
Right, and then they put it in the register and comment starts to come in. So yeah, if you've got it ready to go between the packet and this edition, incidentally, these are all three of these pages are labeled Exhibit 3.
Yeah, Exhibit 3 includes 4 figures.
Got it, okay. Anyway, so yeah, if you want to accept that or entertain a motion to accept the report with the revised Exhibit 3, that would be appropriate.
Okay, so I will make a motion to accept the VFW's EAW with these updated Exhibit 3 figures.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept. Any discussion? And I'll just start. So the next step in all of this is that once we accept this, then we have 30 days to get it published in the Environmental Quality Bulletin.
EQB.
EQB Monitor. And Sherry is all set up to do that. And basically, my understanding is that she sends it to 10 to 15 different entities that are on a list, and they all review it. They can raise questions, and they will send those to us, and then we'll have to respond to those questions. But if this motion is successful and we accept the EAW tonight, then that 30-day clock starts, and based on discussions with Sherry, we should be fine getting it all in once she's back in town. So again, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion that anyone would like to have? Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. Thanks, everybody, and particularly Chris, thanks for getting this over the finish line.
You did a lot of it too.
Yeah. All right, well, we're here now.
Where Luke Machad's doing a Snoopy dance.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is the lake use study. Meredith?
Yes, so Blue Water Science continues to work on the summer lake use study. They have completed 3 peak days, May 27th, that was Memorial Day weekend, July 7th, 4th of July weekend, August 10th, and they'll be doing their last peak day on August 31st, should weather conditions permit. They've completed 1 off-peak day, July 17th, and they'll be studying again tomorrow, should conditions permit. They're working on the shoreline boat inventory. They've sectioned off the lake into a number of zones, and they've gotten 2 of those zones finished. They've done 3 days of boater exit surveys in August, and the lake resident survey should be going out very soon. Do you want to add anything, Mark? Does anyone have questions about progress of the lake use study?
Any questions for Meredith? Okay, thank you, Meredith. Next item on the agenda, 4955 Lake Avenue dock permanency issue. Alan?
Yes, Chair and Board, I think at the last time we left this, which I think we talked about it in June, I've had conversations with the complainant who's still relatively convinced that that is a permanent dock, and so I explained the nature of permanent docks and what the DNR thinks to Mike, just some discussion in the background about what the DNR considers to be a permanent dock and the designation that this would be essentially removable and therefore not a permanent structure. Whether or not that satisfies the curiosity, I don't know. But I think for all intents and purposes, we've certainly closed our inquiry. And after we did the cleanup last fall and improved the situation, I don't think there's much left there to do.
Did you communicate the permanent, non-permanent DNR position to the?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for that.
I did that on email. So
Okay.
the individual has not been shy about just reaching out to me directly. So we've been having those conversations. So might not be what they want to hear, but it doesn't change the nature of what I'm saying.
Okay, Chris?
What was the DNR's position on it? What did they do? How did they feel? What was a permanent dock or what wasn't?
Well, I think the official designation is if it can be removed with hand tools, it's not considered permanent. And so is that, Mike, I think that's consistent with your recollection as well, right? And so I suppose you could make the argument that something that goes in far enough, long enough would be hard to get out. But I think the whole idea is, there's a difference between something that's on a pier or a piling and something that's just, tapped into the ground that could be pulled out with a come along or something like that. How do you define a hand tool, right? Used to be able to pull down trees with a hand tool. So, yeah. But I think that, like I said, the nature of the ordinance or the nature of the regulation would be literally pilings and something where the clear indication is this going to be here for a long time? A fishing pier would be an example of that. So I'd say anything with a concrete piling is not going anywhere. A bunch of timbers that are just kind of there as placeholders so you don't have to just take them out every year. If they can be, I think the point is that makes it non-permanent.
Okay, any questions for Alan on that item?
Yeah.
Scott?
Now, does that mean that they will remove it before ice in?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, the dock itself, yes, but I think those supports have stayed there historically.
He took them out.
Did he take them out last year?
He took them out, like all from up all the way to shore last year.
And I would assume the same thing. So,
Like he left in, I think, like
couple of them maybe.
15 feet from shore. whatever
Those are the
it
ones
was.
I'm thinking of.
But like everything that was in the water all the way up to wherever it was,
Gone
he ripped them all out, which that wasn't the case for years.
years. And so it also underscores the fact that they weren't permanent, right? Because it was pretty easy to yank them out. So
And I was surprised he even put them back in this year. It was like,
And if he did leave in the piers, let's say, then it would be subject to our rule that, hey, you have to mark them, you have to put a reflective tape on them so they can be seen this far away.
that's the way I'd read it, right? Because, I mean, that was our intent, was so that snowmobilers who probably shouldn't be snowmobiling there anyway, we're doing what we can to make sure that nothing happens like what happened, a couple winters ago now? where someone hit one of the commercial docks, so.
That was the criteria we gave 2 years ago. We're like, if you don't remove it, it's going to be considered a permanent dock, and you're going to have to pay for it along with doing all this other stuff.
Yeah, although I think there's a difference in the permanent versus non-permanent, but it's the idea that, I think anybody could leave their dock in year-round. It might not be a great idea, but if they did that, it's not permanent, but they need to mark it.
Yeah, we just delineated it by, I think, November to, I thought it was a certain part of the year. If your dock's going to be in there in the non-boating season, it just has to be marked accordingly with what we regulated, so.
Yeah, I'm there now, but I think we were more trying to just figure out if it was a permanent dock or not. Now I understand what you're saying, though, with just a roll in or whatever, leaving it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on this item for Alan? Okay, thank you,
All right,
Alan.
we'll see what happens next.
Next item is reports and action items. First one is executive committee. That's me. The executive committee did meet. Sherry talked about handling of the office email and voicemail while she's out. And thank you, Scott and Mike, I think, for helping with that while she's gone. We talked about the dredging of the boat launch that occurred apparently this last spring by Ramsey County, and whether we should have been notified about that. And Sherry's in touch, going to be in touch with them about that. Another item that came up was pumping from White Bear Lake. Is it okay for someone to pump water out of White Bear Lake? And apparently it is. That was a surprise to me. As long as the water level, or lake level, is above 923.5. Talked a little bit about the Lake Use study, and Meredith just gave a report on that. And then the St. Germain Bay sign is up. And thank you to Mike and to Meredith and to Mark and to maybe Alan and everybody that had their fingers in that. I really appreciate the help getting that to the finish line. Okay, and that's it. Any questions about that report? Okay, moving on. Lake Quality Committee, Mike.
Lake level today is 923.14. 923.14. It's 3 3/4 inches higher than last month. The lake has done nothing but go up every month all summer long. Naysayers.
I was there, Mike.
The lake temperature is 74 degrees. It was 79 last month, so that's going down. And the Eurasian Water Milfoil Survey was completed in June. We treated in July. We treated 33.43 acres. We were anticipating an average of 52, and we're very, very happy that we got 33. The total cost is a little over $29,000, so we're fine as far as the extra money we allocated, way below what we allocated. And the treatment, checking on it recently, has been very effective. It was put in on a hot, sunny day, and it really did a good job. That's it for me.
Any questions for Mike? Chris?
One question, did you get any reports about some algae blooms?
Oh, yeah, well, that happens.
That was a first for me to see that big bloom like that bad.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, I've seen it lots of times, but everybody wants it to be perfectly clear. The Secudis readings, Metropolitan Council is doing that. They're still like 11, 12 feet. So they've been as high as 17, then it kind of settled in at 15, and then we had an algae bloom and it went to 12. That's not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
And that bloom's kind of going away.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And do we know, is it blue-green algae or just,
I don't know.
It was green algae, and that's just natural.
yeah? Okay.
It's,
Okay, anything else for Mike? Okay, thank you, Mike. Next item is the Lake Utilization Committee, and there was no LUC meeting before this one, obviously, because we had our training. So, Mark, do you want to give us that report?
Yeah, so this is actually probably about a month old, so obviously, but I've spoken with The Minnetonka Conservation District, I've spoken with our Washington County Water Patrol Sergeant, spoken with the neighbors, I've spoken with the city maintenance lead, and basically, one of the neighbors was stringing a rope line to their dock from the city beach. And somebody came in to pick up one of their kids and said, you can't do that. And so he filed a report with Washington County Sheriffs. And the deputy told me, he goes, look, the only rule that there is, and we don't have any in our ordinance, and neither does Minnetonka, is that you can't be within 100 feet of a swimmer. And he said, my people, even if they have eyes on it, and they would have to have eyes on it to do anything, probably aren't going to make that distinguishing, is it 100 feet, is it not 100 feet? And so what the city has then done is there's an association dock just to the south or the west, and they've expanded their beach all the way to that dock. But the other side where the rope was, that has been removed. And then there are also complaints about boats going up to Chautauqua, and then the buoys at the 1033 Park have been removed. So that's basically what's going on, is people were complaining that boats were dropping off, and it turns out that, as crazy as that sounds, there's nothing illegal about it, if it's done on not private property. And there's some sections of still city property there that allows people to do it.
So question. So if a boat drops off someone 5 feet or parks 5 feet from the buoys, the swim beach buoys, that would obviously be a violation of the 100-foot rule?
You could probably call the deputy and have them get them out of there. But as far as going in and dropping off and doing, as long as they're not 100 feet away from a swimmer, and there's a lot of times there's not many, they're all up on shore, it's just little toddlers and stuff, so there's not really people out there. But what they don't like, and the lifeguards don't like it, but there's not much they can do, is when families will drop off kids and they'll swim under the ropes into the beach. But again, talking to the Washington County deputy, there's really no rule to say they can't. So again, it's kind of like some of the stuff we talked about earlier. It's probably not the news we wanted, but it's what is.
But just to be clear, I thought that I heard that a boat can't be within 100 yards, 100 feet?
100 feet of a swimmer.
100 feet of a swimmer.
Not a swim rope.
Right,
swimmer.
right. So if there's a swimmer out at the boat buoys,
Yep.
Then that boat pulling up, that would be a violation of that 100 feet. But a Ramsey County Water Patrol person would have to see that, would have to be able to tell that's less than 100 feet, and then they could do something. They might just decide to give a warning, and but they could ticket them.
They could, or they could call a Washington County who goes terrestrial and walks out on the dock and sees it. But he did say, he goes, pretty hard to tell what, you take a picture, you say you saw it, and the first thing they're going to say is, how do you know that was 100 feet?
Right, right. Alan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just in general, public entities are the only entities that can actually cordon off swim areas like that. So no one else can do that. So that's carved into the rules that the DNR regulates. And so if a conservation officer was out there and actually eyes on, because these are only misdemeanors, right? So that would be the direct way of catching someone doing that. And I think it would be fairly obvious. And if I remember correctly, Water Patrol has almost like golf rangefinders, so they can accurately ascertain distance by just shooting the side of a boat and figuring it out. But that said, I think that if it was a real problem at Matamidi, one of the officially positioned lifeguards with some binoculars could reasonably call that in to non-emergency 911 and say, hey, this is the license plate or the registration number on the boat, and I just watched them come within 20 yards of a swimmer to drop off a whole bunch of people, and they all jumped off and then went speeding off. So you could report that, and that could be the basis for an enforcement action too if someone was able to do that on the water. But that would be the only two ways I could think of that it would matter or would be done.
Yeah, and I think that someone maybe advised the city of Matamidi of that, if there's a problem, have your lifeguards call it in.
They have been by the city manager.
Okay.
And the lifeguards are contracted through Maplewood YMCA. And they're not out there to have their kids arguing with grown-ups, so.
Chris?
I have one question, and maybe either one of you can answer. They do have, like we were talking, the buoys that say no motorized boats,
Correct.
right? What's the rule around those from the sheriff, or is there?
That section is now the section that they've cordoned off, and so what the canoes and kayaks are doing is either just sliding over
But
it
even
or
on the-
lifting them up.
Even out in front on the right side, I think there's like even one by where the rope was removed, there's a buoy there that says no motorized boats.
It's,
there rules
from what I
on-
understand, that would be pretty much unenforceable. You can put it out there,
So
but
it's just a
you
warning.
can't
It's more
block
of a
off the
warning
lake
sign, there's
from,
no ordinance on that.
right.
Okay.
You can't block off the lake.
It's more of a visual warning than anything.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be enforceable.
Meredith?
Can we pass on to Water Patrol that we're concerned about, or the city is concerned about this issue, and we're concerned about the safety of swimmers, and could they watch for it?
I'm certainly happy to do that with Mike. I'd be surprised if some of the locals haven't already maybe done that,
Okay.
but I'll make sure and do that. I mean, I'll cover what I've learned later on in my report, because obviously I'm in pretty regular contact with both our conservation officer and the Water Patrol. And I think that Ramsey kind of does a big loop around they're the ones actively patrolling.
Right.
So I don't know as you'd get a whole lot of response, like you said, to, Washington County, if someone comes out there, the perpetrators would be long gone, just because they don't have that much of a presence there, because they're usually busy on that little thing called the St. Croix.
And they'll be on shore. He said it'll just be a terrestrial deputy who will drive down to the beach park and walk out there.
Right.
We won't put the water patrol out for that.
Okay, so Alan, you'll let them know about our consent?
Yep.
Okay, thanks for that.
Specifically for that beach.
Meredith?
I could also put it on our social media, just to remind people about the rules of how close you can get to a swimmer and how close you can get to a swimming area buoy. It'll be helpful, but
Oh, it'd be helpful.
good
if
reminder for some
even at the
people.
boat launch, right? Just saying, hey, some of the courtesy rules that we have and state regulations, right? Stay away from the marked swimming areas. Should be obvious, but
Okay, any additional questions for Mark on the LUC report? Okay, moving on. Lake Education Committee, Scott?
Yeah, we've submitted our final publication to the Laker, which, this is the last one, whatever, third or fourth? Fourth.
Third one.
Third one, okay. And move on to next year after this. We have some ideas already floating around, so. We haven't had any shortage of material, which I was a little worried about when we started, because we start with 4 pages on the first one. So otherwise, we have no other education plans at the moment.
Okay.
Social media?
Sure. Just wanted to mention, I went out last week with the Minnesota PCA volunteer, and I did the Sucky Disc with them, and it's on our social media if you want to see it. It's kind of interesting. I'm a bad filmer, but it is interesting to look at. For this month on our social media, I'm going to put up the survey for people who keep a boat on the lake so that they can access it through our social media. I'm going to put up when we do our Phragmites survey, which will be in the next couple of weeks likely. The next edition of the Laker will go out sometime near Labor Day weekend, and then I'll post something about a reminder how far to stay away from swimmers and swim buoys. And then anything else you guys would like posted, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, any questions for Scott or Meredith? Okay, moving on. Treasurer's reports, Mike.
Okay, we have Treasurer's report from July 16th, and I would like to make a motion that we approve credit card charge for 2024-14 and checks 4964 through 4969.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the July treasurer's report. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that
Next is the
passes.
treasurer's report for August. And I would like to make a motion that we approve credit card charges in 2024, number 15, 16, and 17, and checks number 4970 through 4975.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the August treasurer's report. Any discussion? Meredith?
What is check 4975?
That is the city payroll. That's everything else down here. That's that.
Oh, that's, okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, any additional discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you, Mike. Board council report, Alan?
Thank you, Chair and Board. As usual, I did interact with Mr. Servatka, our Water Patrol for Ramsey County. Said everyone was relatively tame for obviously the month of July, and so no citations were written. And I contacted Mr. Pavila and similar, so a lot of fisher warnings for various things, but no citations. So it was well, from my anecdotal evidence, which is 3 times out on the lake in the last month, everyone's really behaving quite well. That's what I saw. So didn't see any bow riders, and everyone seems to be getting along. So it's been a very nice summer on the lake. One thing I was going to bring up the last time we were together, I think we were talking about lake use study and things of that nature, but Meredith, have you been to the MPCA dashboard to see the dashboard view from MPCA with White Bear Lake?
I haven't.
I'll send it to you because I think
Yeah.
it might make an interesting thing to put on the website because it talks about clarity, it talks about things to look out for, and it's just sort of an active monitoring from their perspective of what's going on here. And I found it interesting, and I just forgot to bring it up the last time, but I saved the window for this time. So anyway, it's a quiet month. Knock on wood, we've only got probably another 60 days left. And any questions or anything else you need me to go over with the conservation officer or Water Patrol, other than what we've already discussed?
No, but I'll just ask, would you mind sending that MPCA dashboard link to Sherry so she can send it to all the board members in case others are?
Always.
Thank you, Alan. Any questions for
It's
Alan?
interesting, so you'll enjoy it.
Yep. Any questions for Alan? Okay, thank you, Alan. Announcements. Sherry's not here, but I'll let you all know that we're meeting in September, the third Tuesday of September. That's the next meeting. What? 17th, thank you. September 17th will be our next meeting. There will be an LUC meeting at, I assume, 6 o'clock before that. Yeah, so maybe that's it for announcements. And we're at item 12, adjournment. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes. We're adjourned. Thank you all for making it out tonight.
Scuba diving, it talks about towing.
We have in our